Hello, good to see you all again. Welcome to the semi-final of All Gathered Up, the show that goes into detail about all the skills and the techniques that come up on the Great British Sewing Bee each week. We've been doing it for 8 weeks. This is now week 9. No, I'm confused now because I've written week 8. It is week 9. Week 9, which is the semi-final. It's been that long, hasn't it, Carol? But
I can't believe this. Next week, and then it's going to be August, Stuart. I
know.
can't comprehend it.
And we do it, as you know, you can see her there, every week, Master Tailor Couturier Carol Alayne. Hey, Carol. Yes, we're there, the semi-final at last.
Oh, I'm excited. I really am. It's going to
absolutely.
be a good show.
You think of all the skills and the techniques that we've looked at over this series and last series. Well, the last 3. I forget how many we've done now. We're doing it.
Yes,
it's been wonderful, and I've just got this to show you from our last video. So many comments. Which is wonderful to see, and I thought I'd just take a moment to show you, Carol. Here we go. Mary here, Mary B. Great show. Please tell us more about the technique of adding piping around the neck and the armhole edges of Carol's dress to hold the garment close to the body. Sounds like a really top-notch finish. Well, it was a top-notch finish. Got a quick little picture of it here. Look at it there. Can you remember that? And with the wonders of my digital pen, you can see that piping there. I don't know whether you can give us any more tips on that now, or should we save that for maybe a future upcoming masterclass?
We could do that. I mean, but just briefly, Mary B, is that when you add the piping on, you can stretch the piping a little bit, and that eases in the fabric of the armhole and of the neckline. So that brings the garment closer into the body because you're just tightening it up. Instead of adding small darts or gathers, you're just using that piping just to stretch it along. So then the effect of that is just that it makes a smaller circle around the arm or around the neckline.
There you go. See, we always get something. Thank you, Carol. Right, next one. And this is, we're always learning. Look what Linda wrote. I love your reviews of the techniques and how to improve the outcome in the finished garments. I am so enjoying slow sewing and find it as almost meditation. My garments are so much better and I am proud of them. I'm looking forward to the masterclasses. Brilliant series. We've talked about this many times, haven't we? I know the Sewing Bee is all about fast sewing, but actually, if you want to get better at your sewing, remember I said it a couple of weeks ago, you just got to slow down and really slow down and enjoy it. Makes a big difference, doesn't it?
It does. We always talked about what it is that you're actually doing. What's happening when you employ a technique. And what I really enjoy about this is that this is what we intended. I was a bit bothered. Things were going too fast. People weren't getting the technical help they needed. So we put this together, Stuart, and we're actually achieving what we set out to do. So we'll talk more about slow sewing, and in the master classes we'll go through things step by step, and it'll be interactive. So, we'll be able to work together on this.
Absolutely. And talking about masterclasses, a couple more messages about that. Janie says, yes, please, a masterclass with Carol would be great. As a self-serving sewer over 50 years, I have learned more from these videos than from anywhere else. Wow.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
That's something. and we learn in so many different ways, don't we? We learn from books, we learn from YouTube now. But to say they've learned from watching these videos, that's a lot. How do you feel about that, Carol?
Well, I feel terrific. I mean, that's great. As I said, this is what we set out to do. I do love to teach, and I like watching this competition because I've judged competitions, I've mentored competitions, and I know the stress that these people are under, and I know the difference between having the red light on all the time. I'm not sure how these the episodes are structured, but sorry about that. I'm not sure how
it's all go at your place, isn't it?
It's welcome to London, the heart of the city. like I said, I'm not sure how much time they really have. We don't know how much time they really have. I think
No.
4 to 5 hours is like an insane amount of time to try to accomplish some of these things. So we don't really know what kind of pressure they're under. But I know I wouldn't want to do that. I've been sewing for 35 years in London, and I wouldn't want,
No.
people over cameras and people over my shoulder. I just would find no peace in that. So we can do that with this show.
Absolutely. And another one published says, yes, please, focus sessions, a masterclass. I hope you know from the comments how much we enjoy your more education-oriented shows and how much they and each of you are a part of the Sewing Bee experience for so many of us.
Oh.
That's made my day as well. Isn't that
Wow.
lovely? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because we as you said, we do love the program. We know it's entertainment, but we just want a bit more, don't we? And there isn't more out there, so we've done it ourselves, haven't we? We've made it ourselves.
Yep. You want something done right, what do you do?
Exactly. Practical Stitches says, masterclass with Carol. I am so excited to find out more. Carol, you are such a great teacher. Common sense of sewing. Very clear and concise instruction. Yeah, very much so. And another one about learning. Another one to finish off. Another excellent episode. I've avoided invisible sips. In fact, I've only put sips into bags. I'm learning more every week from your chats. And that's something I've always said about us with our sewing. We do not... it doesn't matter where you are on your sewing journey, and that's what you're so good about, Carol. You're so patient with those people who are just starting out, as well as the people that have been sewing for 50 years. But as we've seen there, someone's been sewing 50 years and they're still learning. You're patient with everyone at every end, and I know it's difficult sometimes to not lose that patience with beginners. And I remember some teachers back in my day when I was teaching. They only want to teach the top kids, because that's where they get their enjoyment about it. But we here embrace all levels of abilities, wherever you are in your sewing journey, don't we, Carol?
That's why the channel I Never Learned to Sew, because I do love to teach very much, and I can appreciate, the frustration that if you don't have that skill in your hands, and you look around you and you think, well, everybody sews. Why don't I sew? Why can't I sew? And a long time ago, somebody rang me up in tears, practically in shock, because they tried to sew and they pricked their finger and they were bleeding. So I'm not laughing at that. I'm just thinking how charming it is. Yeah. Somebody called up and said, can you help me? I'm sewing on a button and I've drawn blood. What do I do?
We've all done that too.
And I thought, well, that's it. Yeah. I've never learned to sew. I don't know how to sew a button on. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to be safe. All these things.
Your videos on your YouTube channel are brilliant from that point of view. I know we've got lots of our tutorials on there, but some of the early videos before we started doing the Sewing Bee, it's literally back to basics of how to sew a button on, which actually are basics, yet they are fundamentals. We do it all the time. So therefore, perfect it and get it right.
Yes. I also enjoyed, Stuart, but you're branching out into the quilting idea, the knitting, the crocheting. Yeah. I've learned a lot too. I've watched your videos. I've listened to your chats, and I thought, well, maybe in the summer, maybe when I go on holiday, I'll get a pair of knitting needles. I did learn a long time ago, but all these things are really interesting and meditative. Yes. Somebody said the word meditation, didn't they?
They did.
It is meditative. Yeah. It is relaxing, and it's a life skill that can help your well-being. It's very holistic, the whole thing.
Right. Well, you asked for more information. We told you we were going to come back with more information about the masterclass. We're going to go to a slide now where we're going to go through all the details. You can pause it and read it and take it all in at your own time. But basically, this is it. So what Carol is trialing is during the month of August, this August 2023, we plan to run 3 pilot sessions of our new live interactive masterclass. So see it as a trial. Well, that's the word pilot, isn't it? if it works, then it will go on to something further later down the line. That's right, isn't it, Carol?
That's correct. That's what we want to do.
Each pilot will be about 90 minutes long and will cover a specific challenge that has arisen regularly in the Great British Sewing Bee at some point over the last 3 years. Carol will let you know the first topic during next lives session of the final, so you'll get more information because we're planning it as we speak. So if it interests you, then you can sign up, but you might go even more when you know what the topic is next week that you definitely want to get involved. Now, Carol, I'm just talking through that now because they might be thinking this the same. It's one topic over the 3 pilot sessions, or is each pilot session, the 3 of them, different topics?
Each pilot, it will cover a different topic.
Fabulous.
And as we do with these videos, Stuart, are the chats that we have week to week. We kind of branch off in different areas. So we don't just stick to one thing. It will lead maybe to other parallel topics. Okay, so we'll explore.
Yeah. We are allowing for 5. This is where it gets exciting. We are allowing for 5 participants. I'll have to be honest with you now. I am one of those already. So does that mean 4? Is that mean 4 others, or is that 5 on top?
I think we're talking about 5 to 6. We'll see how many people apply.
Okay.
I think that would be the good place to start, don't you?
And up to 80 observers. And this is if you've seen, because we were talking about this, if you've seen music masterclasses, you'll have musicians who are doing a masterclass with a top musician, and then you'll get loads of people in the auditorium watching as well. It's that kind of feel, isn't it, Carol?
It's exactly the format that I wanted to transfer into this. So we'll have 5 to 6 people. You'll all have your own technology, and I'll be able to see and to help each one of you. And you'll be able to ask questions. And so it will be, 5 or 6 people working directly with me on something. And then for those who don't want that pressure and just want to be in the auditorium, as it were, watching, we'll have up to 80 places for that. And we'll see how it goes. We'll try it and see what happens and see what the feedback is.
Absolutely. Now, this is obviously the awkward bit, because I know people are now thinking, costs involved. Because this is a pilot, what costs are there?
I don't think we're going to have any costs, Stuart. I think this is just a trial.
Wow. Well, there we are. And I can understand that. If it's a trial, we don't know how it's going to work. We don't know how the technology will work. We don't know how the format will work. So you've got to trial it or pilot it at some point. So there we are.
True enough.
We're all guinea pigs. And yes, I suppose if it does progress, and understandably, for your time and for your expertise, we will pay in the future for masterclasses in this format if it works. That's only fair, isn't it? Well, I see that's only fair. You think of all what we've learned from Carol so far, all completely free of charge. I think absolutely rightly so. Yeah, future down the line, if it works, then pay for a masterclass with Carol. But for this one, pilot is free. So if you are interested in taking part, this is what you've got to do. Send an email to you can see it there, Carol's YouTube sort of brand account, I Never Learned to Sew. All one word, no gaps in it. So masterclass at ineverlearntosew.com. And just state your interest. Just go, I'd love to be involved in the pilot. And this is to state their interest to be a participant or an observer, or both, or what would you say for that, Carol?
Yeah, just anything that you want to tell me that you want to do. You want to be a participant. You want to be an observer. You want to see a certain technique. Just tell me why you're interested. Just send me an email. Let me know who you are, what you're looking for, and then we'll use this feedback to come back to you.
There we are. Do you know, I'm just thinking the observer thing. That reminds me of kind of being like in lockdown when you were at home and you had the Zoom meetings on, but sometimes you didn't have to worry about putting your camera on. You were just listening to it, and you didn't have to participate as such. You just had to be there. It's kind of like that as an observer. You're watching and listening, but there is no interaction there, is there?
That's true. So if you're busy doing other things, if you're at work, if you have other responsibilities and you just want to turn your camera off, but you want to watch, or if you want to watch and just ask the odd question, we'll have somebody monitoring the chat as well.
Oh, wow. Even better. Didn't know about that. Well, so,
That's right.
so you've got to kind of work out what you want to get out of it yourself then, because some people I can guarantee will probably be very happy just to be a participant and actually so, or some will be quite happy to just be an observer and watch the whole process and maybe ask a question.
That's true. And then we'll have a little bit of tech instruction for those who want to be a participant. We'll have so that they can set up their work center like we set up a work center. So we have another camera, but we'll go into that later. But, just so there's another camera set up, their iPhone or whatever, so that we can watch what they're sewing.
And we can do that.
We work all that tech side out.
And we can do that because of the wonders of technology and how it's moved on since COVID. And we're all used to that, aren't we? Looking at Zoom, it'll all be done through Zoom and getting cameras. So, yeah, that's exciting. Well, there we are. If that interests you, then send an email to masterclass@ineverlearnedtosew.com and register your interest. And we'll talk about the topics next week in our live session. So yes, we will be with you. Oh yeah, I've put week 8 there. Look, I'm just going to quickly change that so I don't confuse myself. 9. The wonders of tech.
Talk about technology. You did that so fast.
It's great. We are going to be live with you because it worked so well. And we thought for the final episode, because we don't do a demo on the final episode, because we're just so ecstatic about the final and who won or who narrowly missed out. So we just end up talking about the whole process, talk about their makes and celebrate the whole series. So I hope you could join us live for that so we can talk more about that. But there we are. That's next week. So let's go back to the semi-final then, which we had. I see there our focus is top stitching, whether that's by hand or machine, Carol.
That's right. I saw a lot of top stitching in this video, and I thought for this semi-final, yes, it's a good thing to focus on because you can top stitch, as you know, by hand, or you can do top stitching by machine. Both have their pros and cons about it, and I thought, well, let's just cover that, and that I think might lead on to one of our master classes. So I'll explain more about that. But I thought I'd send a few images in of things that I've made.
Yeah. Let's have a look.
Okay, to talk about top stitching. So top stitching, Stuart, it can be decorative, functional, or both.
Decorative, or what did you say?
Functional.
Oh, functional. Yeah.
Or both. So in this case, this little frat jacket with hand warmer welt pockets is quilted because we're mixing two fabrics. We're mixing a wool blend, which is the navy, with a technical fabric that has a polyfill sandwiched in between the technical fabric and the lining.
Oh yeah, this is my stomping ground now, isn't it?
Absolutely. So if you buy a down coat that you have channels where they fill in with the feathers, or if you don't have feathers, you sandwich this in and you make this decorative quilting. So this was quite a large scale. This was just over 2 inches by 2 inches square. Yep, nice and big, and it made for a really nice casual garment. So. I was really happy to have this one come out so nice. Khaki and navy, very sporty, unisex. So that's one example of you can see that it's both decorative and functional, but more functional. This is a close-up of a lamb's suede coat that we did with one of our fashion startups, and thank you very much. So it has bound buttonholes, which are top stitched through in the ditch.
Oh,
So if
what?
you look at the bound buttonhole,
That bit
yes,
there?
that bit there,
Wow.
it's all top stitched through to secure the jets um, to the lining of the pocket flap. Now I want to say a bit about parallel top stitching, because you see with the pocket flap and the yoke and the collar and the
Yeah.
armhole, you have double layer of parallel top stitching lines.
Yeah.
So you selected a stitch length,
Okay.
and now, okay, if you're just going straight across, well, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Straight
Total.
across, straightforward. Okay. Now let's talk about working with a shaped section,
Oh.
like the point of the collar, like the shape of our pocket flap. There you are.
Yeah.
So you want to keep these stitches as parallel as possible. And if they're not parallel, it really does look out of place. Okay? And it's not nice to look at. So you have to kind of judge where if you top stitch on the outside of your shaped pocket flap, okay, you're going to be stitching at about 3 mil,
Cool.
2 mil, 3 mil on the outer edge of your pocket flap.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you're going to put a stitching line parallel to that on the inside, which might be a quarter of an inch away.
Yeah.
So it's how to manage to keep that parallel. So you almost have to eyeball or mark
Oh,
the
yeah.
intersection of where those line, where you have to stop and turn your machine
Yeah.
and then continue sewing, so that you maintain that parallel line of stitching.
Yeah.
And you might be able to see that on this particular pocket flap, I carried on with the stitch length that I selected, but when I got close to the
Yeah.
point that I had to stop and turn, I had to take a very small stitch. See there?
Absolutely tiny. Yeah.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
Thank you for that,
literally
Stuart.
one stitch. So, when you were coming down, you're using your foot pedal. Did you stop on that one stitch, or did you go? Did you turn it by hand a couple of stitches before, so you had a bit more control?
Yes, that's exactly what I did. So I started to slow down. I had just a point in my eye that with experience, you
Yeah.
learn how to do this.
Yeah.
And your intuition tells you where you've got to that point, where you've got close to that point. And I took a slightly smaller stitch,
Yeah.
and then I thought I've got a little bit more to go. So I just released the presser foot. I've got a knee pedal, turned the crank of the machine on the outside, and just selected a very tiny stitch till I
Brilliant.
buried the needle exactly where I wanted to bury it, and then pivoted the piece, and then kept sewing.
That
Okay, so
and you're right there. That is experience, because I know if that was me, I would take my stitch down and I've gone too low, and I've got to do now 2 or 3 stitches to get to that pivot point. It is just something that comes with experience, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's hard to mark leather because you can't get chalk out of it. And if you go too far and you put your shard needle, your leather needle, which has a shard on it, if you make a hole in it, that hole is there.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to close up. So you really just have to practice. And the one thing you can do is you can put a pin in that pivot point.
Yeah.
And then when you take it out, you've got that mark.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
So you know what you're aiming for. So that's one trick that you can use to take some pressure out of the technique.
And this middle section, to me, that I would have never have thought. I know there's a little pivot point there, but I wouldn't have thought that was important. So I would have just carried on sewing and stopped, pivoted and sewn. But actually, you're right. You still need it wonderfully symmetrical. You need that pivot point to be the stitch, the center, don't you? And look what you've done there. You can see again where you've slowed down, gone down one small stitch, so you've got that stitch right in the perfect point of that patch.
Right in the point of that shape.
Yeah.
Because if you look vertically, you've got your buttonhole, your bound buttonhole, your button, your 2 points on the pocket flap, and that goes directly into a box pleat. So everything has to line up vertically.
I'm just going to draw it. I'm just going to draw it bigger. What am I doing? Because I just want to think
Carry on
out
a little
loud.
bit more.
I want to think out loud a bit. Hang on. So I'm because the stitch length is like this is over the top. I know. Imagine I'm coming down. My middle stitch though doesn't want to be like that, does it? It doesn't want to.
No.
It's going to look.
No.
You still want your center stitch to be. One more. Go back. One more. Like that, don't you? Yeah.
Yes. So you can draw your stitch up a little bit to the right and up a little bit to the left.
Yeah.
So you've got a V.
Like that, and then you go again.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Wow.
So those V's have to all measure up, all line up vertically.
Yeah.
And the same with the collar. Exact same thing with the collar, the point of that collar.
Yeah, I mean, that they were talking about points, weren't they, on the trench coat? But you look at that. So that oh, I can't get it big enough. That tiny stitch there is actually a little one down and a little one up. It's a tiny V.
That's it. That's it. Now, one thing to point out about working with leather is it's an easier job because we don't actually sew the collar point and then turn it inside out.
Oh.
Because leather doesn't ravel. This is a raw edge. So our under collar is sewn to the upper collar. And then normally what you do is you trim it.
Oh,
so
wow.
The under collar might be slightly bigger.
Yeah.
And then you top stitch to the perfect look that you want, and then you can trim the under collar away.
Get you.
So you don't have to worry about keeping those two edges even as you're top stitching the two of them together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I've just got another question. Sorry to go on about this. Right angle here. Can you see that middle one and that one there? Oh, I've done it too big, that one. I'm just going to draw it bigger again. So this is our right angle. That's the edge of our fabric. Let's get rid of that. You've got your one close to the 2 millimeters away. Is your right, that one in the middle there, is that literally a tiny one to the right and a tiny one down?
That's right. Yes. The needle stops right in the point, right at that right angle. The needle stops there. And then you pivot, and then you start another stitch. Now you go back to your normal length stitch when you pivot.
Get you. But because I think I would have just gone like that, and then... Oh no, because that would have, that wouldn't, you'd then get a jump, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Because your stitches are right together.
Yeah.
You don't have any space between them. So.
Because that is just, I mean,
Got it?
That's audience, that's where you can appreciate the fine masterwork here. It's, absolutely. And you can't rush that. Yet we often think that top stitching is the thing that you do at the end and you just quickly do. Well, actually, that's not. Top stitching is, if not more time, because it's going to be seen, it's beautiful, and you want it exact like that. Yet we tend to rush top stitching, don't we?
That's right. With this kind of work, you cannot. There's no backspace key on a sewing machine, right?
Yeah.
You can't get out of it, so you don't want to rush it because you can't tear your work apart. I'm going to show you a trick in a minute of how to remedy something if it does go wrong. But even when you're working with leather, everything stains it, even the oil on your fingers. So if you're going to top stitch, make a garment like this, and you're going to get to the top stitching phase, you better make sure that your machine is clean, your hands are clean, you're in the right frame of mind to do this.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you've got that precision on your mind. It's tricky. Mm.
Wonderful. Right, I'm talking too much, so let's rattle through. And your last picture here, well, I love this. Look at this pair of
Okay,
jeans. It's like
so
reminds me of
this
like
is
some sort of borrow work.
yeah, I want to put this in because this is not about precision. So I got a commission from advertising company that was working with Levi's, and they just wanted me to just throw a bunch of denim, make a flag, and
Yeah,
stress it and rough it up. So that's what we've got here. So this is all
love it.
top stitching, but it's not precision. It's not precise. No one's going
Yeah.
to check it. No one's going to interrogate it. It's so this was a really fun project. The pressure was off. I love this.
Absolutely. Oh, right. Well, let's go then, and let's see some of your work because we love it when we go to a demo. That's what makes these videos. Even though
Okay.
sometimes it's not about the demo, it's about just hearing you in the last 10 minutes of just talking top stitching there. But it's always nice to go to Carol Cam and see something. So what are we gonna what are you gonna show us first of all?
Let's go. Let's go to Carol Cam. So we
Okay.
were talking about collar points and things like that. So I thought I would just talk a little bit about some stitches because we're talking about handwork now.
Yeah.
I've shown you all the machine work. So here we go. We're here, and I've got what looks like the point of a jacket collar, right?
Oh yeah. Your
Okay.
nice lapel. Yeah, yeah. I get you. I can see the orientation.
Um, I'm working with some Gutermann top stitching fabric. Okay.
Oh no,
I'm sorry,
that's
top stitching
a good
thread.
point because Tony got pulled up with that, didn't he? Top stitching
Yeah,
thread is going to be a lot thicker than normal sewing machine thread, isn't it?
that's right. It is. Um, and it's easier to work with top stitching thread by hand with a bigger needle than it is to put it in the machine
Yeah.
because you need a certain kind of needle to work with this. So the first thing I'm going to show you is a stitch called the pick stitch. It says P-I-C-K.
Pick.
Okay? The pick stitch is not to show underneath. Okay? Now I've gone ahead, I don't know if you can see this, I've made some little dots.
The camera. Sometimes the camera is great with us, and sometimes it's not. Today it's a bit pixelated. Oh, I can see the dots now. Yes. Yeah.
So,
Dot. Yeah.
dot, dot. Okay. So I'm going to put the needle into one of the dots, just picking up one layer of fabric only. And I'm just going to repeat this. All
So
the way
you're
around the collar.
so you're going through, but you're not going through to the back. Oh, I've just
See
realised
that?
in the name. So you are literally just picking. Oh,
Picking
you're
up.
you're
That's right.
picking up a little. I get you.
Yeah. So just one layer of fabric. And this is a very chic top stitch that you can use on a collar or a cuff.
And those dots,
Definitely.
you're going in and up on every dot, in and up on every dot.
Exactly.
Right.
Precisely right. So the length of the stitch is a half a centimeter,
Okay.
and the distance between is 1 centimeter.
Oh, now yes, stay there. Don't move. Perfect. So you said don't move. The stitch was half a centimeter, and then the gap
That's
between
right.
is a centimeter.
1 centimeter. Okay? And you
Yeah.
can see the corner point that we're most concerned about. We want to make sure that we have some action right here at the corner, which is a 45-degree angle from the corner of the outside edge.
And can we see the back? Just so we'll be like, can we see?
Oops. Here we go. Yep. You can see that Carol did go through.
Well, they see.
It happens.
You didn't want me to ask that, probably, did you? Oops, sorry. But that's the way it is, isn't it? It's
Yeah, that's it. So
just
what do you
see if
do?
you can if you can hold that close again and do a stitch so we can see it. Or are you ripping it back? Yeah, rip it back.
Yeah. So this is all you do. Take your work out. Take the head of your needle.
Yeah.
One more. There. There we are. There's the perfect underside, Stuart.
See, it's live. We keep it in. That's the
Yep,
way it
that's
should
right.
be. It's nice, isn't it? Yeah.
I know. I was so concerned about watching the camera.
Of course. Well, yeah, you're doing
Yeah.
50 billion things at once there. You've got.
So this is called the pick stitch, P-I-C-K.
Okay. Yeah.
Now I'm going to show you another stitch.
Okay, so that's done.
Okay, let's just cut this one off. So that's done. Now this is how we finish some of our. Now can everybody see that? What I've got here now is I have. Oh, we have to wait, don't we?
Yeah, it's sometimes your iPhone is wonderfully quick and beautifully clear, but as I say, the wonders of technology can sometimes everyone can be on the internet, so therefore the signal is you just think it's got to come out of your house, go up to a satellite, come down to my house, and then go back out to the world again. It's yeah. So sometimes it's not as good, but we can just make it out for the moment. I can see your points again, your dots.
You can see the dots are a centimeter apart.
Okay.
And this is how I would hand finish the collar edge of a tailored piece. And this stitch is called the prick stitch. So this is prick, because you're just pricking a little bit of the fabric. And it is, in fact, it's a back stitch.
Oh, okay.
So I've come up in one of my dots, and then I'm going to put a stitch just behind it, just behind where the needles come up. And I'm going to go to the next dot. Now this can show on the bottom. This doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay, so hopefully you can see that's just a tiny dot of a stitch that's visible. And then I go, see, we're working very, very close to the edge of the garment. And all this is, the purpose of this is not decorative. This is just functional.
Okay.
And it's done to keep all the layers of fabric together. Okay, so you can see, you can hardly see that.
So right. So you've gone in.
A tiny back stitch.
Oh, I see.
I've gone
so
just behind. I'm going just behind where the needle came up.
And
then
going
I'm taking
in and
my stitch.
ah.
Yep. And all that's left is that tiny dot. A small back stitch. Okay? Now I'm just going to go into the corner and show you, again, just one back stitch. I'm right in the corner now.
Come on,
and
camera.
then when I take my
Render.
back stitch, come on, camera, render.
Yeah, I know. It's frustrating, especially when we were live and we went to your mannequin. It rendered beautifully and it was perfect. Now it's just not being so good.
Okay. Well, I'll stop now so that you can see the difference between the two.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, hold it up close, and then it will. Yeah. It will eventually render once we're there.
Okay.
Oh, I hope you
can see it.
I can see. Oh, right now we're there. Right now it's finally rendered. Brilliant. Move down a bit so we can see your prick stitch.
Move down a bit.
Oh. Yeah. It's difficult. Left and right. There we go. Yeah. So we can see. So we can see the top part of the lapel.
Yeah. What do you want me to do? Go down, up.
Hold it up to the camera, but also this is like a driving lesson, isn't it? But go push it away from you so we can see more of the top part of the lapel. And now the other way. Sorry, viewers. Yes.
That's
So I can.
all. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I can see your pick stitch brilliantly. Come down more into the camera of the prick stitch. The other way, other way. We're nearly there.
I don't know what to do.
I can't see the top part of the lapel. There we are. There we are. Now come up to the camera. Yeah. Yay.
Yay.
Oh,
Yay.
there we go.
Okay.
Yeah. And that will render soon. Oh, wow. Now I can see it. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's come out there. And then you're going to go, as a back stitch, you're going to go back in and up again, yeah?
Yeah. That's right. So your stitch is underneath and it's a centimeter long.
Wow.
When your needle comes up, you go just behind it. So the stitch that you barely see is just a millimeter, as opposed to this half a centimeter.
And so, as you said, the prick stitch is functional. You're going to use the same color thread as the fabric. You're not going to see it.
Exactly. You're
Okay.
quite right. Okay.
Yeah,
so
brilliant.
Because the camera is not really on our side, I'm just going to show you one more thing. Okay.
Okay.
Because I had another demonstration, but I think we'll save it for the masterclass.
Okay. Yeah, it's.
I want to show you this. It's called an arrowhead.
Oh, wow.
Stitch.
Right, that will render at some point. Oh, wow, I can see it now. Oh, wow.
Okay.
Oh, look at that, viewers. Now we can see that close up. Yeah, keep it there. That's perfect.
Okay. So, again, Stuart, I'm using the Gutermann top stitching thread. This takes about 30 seconds to make, 30 to 45 seconds.
No.
It's a real jewel of a finishing polish. If you need some reinforcement or some decorative, and it can be functional and decorative.
Yeah.
So, as we're talking about top stitching, I'm thinking that if the viewers are interested, I can go through more stitches like this that are functional or decorative or both in one of our pilots.
Well, yes, if you're interested and you're signing up, put it in the email. The more information, if you want to be a participant, the more information you give Carol, you know she's going to tailor that to, if she gets 6 emails from people all wanting to learn, say, this technique or develop that top stitching different techniques, then your pilot session will be tailored to that, won't it? Makes sense.
That's absolutely right. And I'm interested in the feedback. I'd like to know if there are viewers that have been watching this series 9 of the Great British Sewing Bee, if there's something that maybe they remember from an earlier episode that they'd like us to cover, maybe something they've been trying over the series, having trouble with, just we want to hear from you. And you're so good at letting us know what you like and what you'd like to see. So we're just counting on that to continue, aren't we, Stuart?
Absolutely. And just so you know, the technology that you see here is a different technology to what the masterclasses are. The masterclasses are Zoom, and you all know that works. That you log on. Zoom does all the wonderful stuff with mics and cameras. Here, for this technology to get to YouTube, it's a different sort of format. This is more of a presenting technology. So sometimes we have to bear with microphones. Sometimes you might hear a little bit of echo with Carol just because she's got an earpiece in and there's another speaker. And sometimes our technology fails us like that because it's more of a streaming software. But in the masterclass, there'll be no issues of sound. There'll be no issues really with that sort of technology because it's a different technology, isn't it, Carol? Because I think your other half,
That's
Mike,
right.
does loads on Zoom, doesn't he?
Does loads on Zoom in America, in Japan, here in Britain, and my own projects that I work on, we all use
Yeah.
Zoom, and so you're right. The technology is slightly different to this, but this is streaming, and this is it's a
Yeah.
different kettle of fish altogether. But yeah, we'll talk through that technology. So rest assured, viewers, that if you want to participate in this, we'll help you through it with technology.
Absolutely, and don't be put off. So if you see me pixelate, or if you see Carol or that camera there pixelating, it is different on Zoom for sure. Right, well, there we are. Let's then have a quick flick through. Thank you for that, Carol, because we're going to see the top stitching come up many times as we talk through the challenges. And yes, the first challenge that we had was the pattern challenge. Well, a trench coat, Carol, 32 pattern pieces, and they've upped the time limit 5 hours. That was a huge challenge, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is a really tricky test. The buttons are very tricky, and I was so disappointed to see people with their coats on the floor trying to line up buttons. This is really it's too difficult. You need a table at the right height so that you can marry up
Yeah.
the two fore parts and get the buttons aligned, buttonholes and buttonholes aligned. So, but they did a very, very good job. We had
Absolutely.
one, the one problem with Vicky was that I think she didn't have the surface area to mark her buttons up correctly,
Yeah.
and she got the buttonholes on the wrong side. She could have remedied that by putting the buttonholes, just by making another set on the other side and sewing a button over a buttonhole. It could have been remedied.
Yeah.
The mistake would have shown, but she could have got out of that trouble. But I dare say it was just the tools. They don't
Yeah.
have the right tools to do the proper job.
We've got Mia in pink. We've got Tony Beanie, as we now call him, affectionately call him, and then we've got Asma there. But when you look at them hanging there on the models, there is something quite special about those two, isn't there?
Yes. In the pastel colors,
Yeah.
where the buttons are in contrast, they're quite chic. And it's because it's different. We're used to seeing trench coats, the Burberry and the khaki and the
Yeah.
army green. We're used to seeing it, but they are quite dazzling, aren't they? They do stand out because of the color that's
Absolutely. Well, they all did so well. I know it was the standing was Asma first, Tony second, Mia third, and Vicky fourth. It was probably quite close between those two for second and third place. I think issues were with Mia's arm, the set-in sleeve it was perhaps set in wrong, and then I think Tony had a pucker there. So not much in it. But let's just take a moment because we're talking about top stitching. There wasn't much top stitching. It was quite kind of invisible top stitching, wasn't it? It was all blended in.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that if they did have that parallel top stitching, it would have added so much onto
Yeah.
the time that it would taken to finish. So and in fact, I missed it on the sample when they showed it, because I guess my screen was particularly dark.
Yeah, do you want to have a
I didn't
look?
even see the top stitching.
So
Yeah,
that's the top stitching on the model.
yeah,
You've got.
it's so close to the edge.
Is it that? I thought it was the.
Yeah,
Oh no, is it? Yes, you're right. It
yes,
is.
it's edge stitching. In fact, what you're seeing is the seam allowance in there that you think is the top stitching. And I think the only two things that were top stitched were the collar and then the storm vent on the left side as we're looking. The storm flap.
Yeah, look at that. You can just see it there very faintly. You're right, it's an edge stitch, that, isn't it? So the edge stitch
but then
is.
for the belt,
Oh,
for the
yes.
belt it was different. Belt, it was 1/4 of an inch.
Yeah. So if you're doing classic top stitching, like your suede, your leather jacket that you showed us, you would have the edge stitch, as you said, 1 or 2 mil, but you would then have had another one there, wouldn't you?
Definitely. And look what that adds to the piece.
Yeah.
It gives it so much more definition. If they did that to the epaulets, to the front edge, you know, to those shoulder seams. It would have
Yeah.
really given the whole piece much more texture.
But as you say, it was a massive piece already, 32 pieces in 5 hours. It would have taken me probably an hour to cut the pieces out alone. So,
I know.
but there was a close up of Asma's collar, and it's exquisite. Take a look at this. Where is it? If I can find it, look at that.
Oh yes, she turned the undercollar in before she top stitched it. So
Yeah.
I mean, Asma presses as she goes, doesn't she? She's a proper couturier. She really knows how to build things and how to you know, build them up and just get every operation right, so that when it's done, it almost doesn't need a final press.
Yeah.
She's so good at just
And
handling every operation as she goes.
and yes, that was one of the criticisms for Mia. Was you can see there? It might even be. Oh no, that one's okay. It's a close up on the front, but I think it was the sleeves that excuse me, that weren't
Yeah,
pressed. But well, it's the time, isn't it? The element.
yeah,
But
definitely.
yes,
Yeah.
if you press as you go, I suppose pressing is probably, if you're going to go on the sewing bee, is that one of the things that just get stitched because you know it's speed sewing. So do you just say, I'm not going to press?
Well, if when you're pressing, you have to get up. You've got to
Yeah,
stand up. You've got to walk over to your iron. You've got to press. You've got to walk back over to your machine. I don't think people have this nice, neat sewing center. You know,
yeah.
I think they might have a smaller iron, but I'm not sure. But definitely, you have to stop what you're doing, get up, and go press, and then come back and sit down. All those breaks add up.
But yeah, we said it before. We said it many times. A phenomenal challenge to get a coat made in 5 hours. I mean,
A big
how long
ass.
would that belt have taken? The belt, turning that round. We were talking about that with the other one. What was it?
Yeah,
The dinosaur kids one with those
yeah,
belt straps and the belt itself. It's a
yeah.
phenomenal achievement by those sewers.
It certainly is. I'm sure. Well, I'd like to know, but I don't know if we can know. But it seems to me that all the casual chatting that's like, oh, what fabric have you chosen, and how are you
Yeah.
going to do this, and you know, all that cannot be included in the five
No.
hours. I don't think there's any way. I think they must have all the time in the world to cut things out, get everything ready before they start the
I
time.
hope so. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Let's move on to the fun transformation challenge. There we go. Look at those four. I know the transformation challenge is perhaps not some people's favourite of rounds. It can be a bit silly, but it is a different part of the brain, isn't it? You either follow a pattern or you're a designer that can just create, and this is where some of those sewers really excel. But
Yeah.
there,
I like
it's
this challenge a lot. I really do like this challenge. This gives you an opportunity to just have some fun,
yeah.
you know. Um, and this was just way out there with the cleaning products. And I mean, the dressmaker gloves, that was just, it was the
Yes,
wackiest thing I
Mia's
think I've ever seen.
rubber gloves. But you think 90 minutes to make that, certainly when you look at Vicky's wonderful, not only did she have her pleats, the pleat fan there, but she had this sort of patchwork woven effect that she created. And that, little gems like that pop
Yeah.
up.
Which she hit on that so fast, didn't she? She
Yeah.
just took one of the aprons and just pleated it up. And then just something happened in her,
Yeah.
you know, inside. She thought, I know, I'll cut strips and I'll plait them. You know,
And
I'll weave, and there it was. It was done.
and I know that's what they
A bit
wanted.
of
A stylish garment or an ingenious garment. So there's some
yeah,
ingeniousness there, isn't there?
totally, and nobody would expect that.
No.
I think we would. You probably could, in the far reaches of your brain, do something with the rubber gloves, um, the pom poms, the scours, because they were there, and you thought this is so incongruous to sewing.
Yeah.
I know. Let's use them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But
The
asthma,
final,
that this seems to be for asthma. This seems to be a thumbprint of a lot of things that she's done.
yeah,
A fitted bodice, a fluttery sleeve, So for her, I think she was just kind of staying in the vein.
yeah,
But Vicky went well off piste,
yeah,
and then
Vicky.
Tony, bless him,
And
yeah.
Tony, he was, he did seem like he knew he was struggling that round. He's like, like that, wasn't he?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
still very
yeah.
clever. The two
Yeah, I
tabards
thought
like
so.
that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
almost like a 1920s flapper skirt, with the mop perhaps being, the that bit, isn't
Yeah, the
it?
frilly skirt.
Indeed. Um,
Oh, it's
so
just so
the
refreshing.
Isn't it? So the final scores were: first place was Asthma, Tony. Oh no! If I turned the page.
No, no, didn't Vicky?
Nope.
Vicky.
Vicky. What am I saying? Vicky was first. Mia was second with the rubber gloves. Asthma third. Tony fourth. There. So Vicky's went from bottom of the trench coat to top. And so you're kind of thinking, right? Okay, was that enough to save her? Everything was going to play really for the made to measure, and the made to measure was this boiler suit, which I had a big conversation with Ting about this. A boiler suit made to measure. Uh, how much of the brief was explained to them? Because they did say about this more modern fitting boiler suit, jumpsuit idea of that Emma Thompson was wearing. But it seemed like some perhaps didn't know that. So some created more of a traditional boiler suit with plenty of space in so you can reach up and bend down. So it necessarily wasn't fitted and used the belt to fit, yet some were fitted. So it was a bit of I don't know, a whether
Yeah, I
whether the
didn't
brief was
understand.
clear.
I know where you're going. It is a made to measure, but just as Mia got away with making her Chanel boxy jacket in a made to measure, I thought there should have been a bit more leeway regarding the tolerance of these
Yeah.
outfits because, like you say, they're belted. It's not a fitted garment. It's not. This is not to be painted on. So I was a bit confused by this.
Yeah, because I felt when we looked at Asma's, which was stunning for that type of a garment, and then you look at Tony's, which was also stunning because of all the pockets
Mm-hmm.
and the space there. It was almost like they loved the concept of the posh, fancy, high fashion boiler suit, and I then felt bad for Tony because Tony had made a boiler suit that had all the pockets on and was a classic boiler suit. So how do you judge the two?
It's very
They're almost two
tricky.
different
Uh,
concepts, aren't they?
that I would agree with that. And also, you look at the size of the model. Asma has been blessed with a model which is she's a size 8,
Yeah,
maybe a 6, and most anything is really going to look flattering. Okay, so the bottom half of this suit is a bit bigger than the top half with
yeah,
Asma's. It's very billowy over the hips, and where
yeah,
Mia got called up because Mia used a stiffer fabric around the hips. This had tolerance around the hips. If you look at the way that her hands in the pocket, there's plenty of room
yeah. That's
in
Mia's.
Asma's. Where
Yeah,
this one, we're looking at Mia's now, it's they said it looks like it's too big around the hips. Well, Mia had made the alteration. She took 2 inches out of the hip on per side,
yeah,
so she made accommodations for that. But when you sit down in a garment like this, the body expands and you need that room. So
yeah,
this is most of these were casual garments except for Asma's, where she
yeah.
was kind of a clubbing garment, wasn't it?
Oh,
The other thing I would say is there was a lot of yeah, and so Tony has a fuller figured model,
yeah,
so you're not going to get the same look. So
yeah.
I'm not
I
sure.
just thought. I, it came across that like we absolutely love this boiler suit, and yes, I did love Asper's, but it was for a different time. Had they all been told to make a boiler suit that was a high fashion, that like Emma Thompson was made, they would have all done that, and then you could have judged that fairly. I just felt if I was Tony and then I suddenly saw Asper's, I was gone, oh my god, have I not done a boiler suit? Oh,
Yes, exactly.
they like
You,
that posh boiler suit, but I've done a boiler suit with loads of pockets. Uh, I don't know. Or maybe I'm just looking into
it's
it too much.
no. And I would say that Asma's was a jumpsuit. Jumpsuits are in. It's a fashion garment. I wouldn't
Yeah,
call Asma's a boiler suit. I would call that a jumpsuit with decorative pockets.
yeah.
Jeweled pockets,
Oh, it was,
and it's
and
in a
that was lovely. Look
billowy.
at this look at the close up here. Look at that. I mean, that
Yeah,
is phenomenal work, isn't it? That we can all respect that, can't we?
totally. And look how even her pocket line is. If you draw a line along the bottom of that pocket, and it's absolutely
Oh,
symmetrical.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, the top
She
stitching or
just
the
handles every
yeah,
detail
yeah,
so well. Everything all along the way. But I like Tony's because, I mean, Tony was expressing the vein
yeah,
that he likes to work in. He loves the camo. He likes, a contrast, and he put in, you know, hundreds of pockets,
yeah, yeah.
didn't he?
You got a pocket that goes in there, and then a pocket that goes in there with behind the mesh. You got every pocket had two. I think one, two, three, four. Yeah, eight pockets.
So the use of color,
Yeah,
the use of top stitching, the way that he the enhanced things. I think I do remember. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the opening brief, somebody said, either Patrick or Esme said, lots of pockets.
yes, yeah, yeah.
So
It's
he took that part of the brief.
Yeah, it's just where you then. I know we've often said this with the brief. It's more of the production side, not the sewer's side. And maybe it's because we just look into it too much because we love the show, and it just makes us. You
Yeah.
just feel maybe it's. I don't know. Yeah, let's look at Vicky's because I felt Vicky's. Let's get the long shot of Vicky. She's done, like Asma, a more modern boiler jumpsuit effect with a
Yes.
little pocket on. Um, it's
This
diff.
is this is a very difficult figure to dress. If you're going to fit the shoulders, then you have to make accommodation for the bust darts so that you accommodate the bust line, and that's not too that's not too tight or
Yeah,
too big. Then you've got a hip to waist ratio, which is quite challenging. So if you're dressing a size 6 figure like Asma, then you're working with basically a cylinder with a belt on it.
right. Yeah,
But if you're going to fit a figure like this, and you have a derriere that's quite pronounced, and you have a
yeah.
bust line that's quite pronounced, you're going to need a lot of darts
A lot of
or
sewing, a lot more sewing.
a
Yeah,
lot of elastic in the back of the waist. Because she did say she made an adjustment for sway back.
yeah.
She made adjustments for all sorts of things. Also, when you talk about the length of the rise in the jumpsuit from the crotch to the shoulder, it's a lot of these. Well, there's only 4, but 3 of 4 were caught up because they were a bit short in the rise.
Yeah, I
But
think I've got.
that's not altogether true. There was
Okay.
plenty of fabric, but it has to do with the distribution of the fork. How long is the fork line in the back? How long is the fork line in the front? Do they meet in the center? And if you get that distribution wrong, then you end up pulling the back into the front. Now that doesn't mean it's too short in the rise. It means that the fork line isn't distributed
Oh,
as efficiently as it could be. So that might be another thing that we explore a little bit further. And we might talk about trousers, and we might
Okay.
talk about the pattern, we might talk about distribution, and we might talk about front to back balance in a garment. So that's another thing that's just come up, because it's easy to look at a garment and say, oh, I see lots of lines, I see lots of stress marks, so that means this. Not necessarily.
Ah,
And we'll go into that more. Okay?
fascinating, fascinating, Carol. I just love. I could just sit here and I don't know many people say it. Could just sit and just listen to that, and I don't have to talk or anything. Just sit and listen.
Oh,
It is, yeah. It just opens our eyes to it. And I know it's a TV show and they haven't got time. They do judge longer. Viewers, just so you know that Patrick and Esme do look at each garment for a long while. Some are saying it's over 20 minutes, which we don't see because they can't. Their judging is cut down. And remember, they don't even choose the cutting, do they? There's an editor choosing what's cut. And an editor probably
yes,
doesn't have any knowledge of sewing. So he or she is grabbing bits. So we have to understand that maybe the judging's comments are taken out, cut, pasted, and in all sorts. So it's a whole new world, really, when you think about it from that point of view, how things can get lost in translation, or we think things don't happen, but they actually do. It's just not in the edit because they've got to get it down to an hour show.
That's right. And I've been part of some of these shows, and the producer will say, can we just do an outtake? Can you just say, oh, that's all over the shop? So
Yeah.
it gets you to say things that are incongruous to what's happening, but
Yeah.
they want to put it in.
Yeah.
That's part of it as well.
Really important. So I know when we critique the judges like that their words and all their spiel has been cut out sometimes to nothing, and we want more. But I hope then someone listens about that there is an audience for more. Give us more on BBC4 or another channel where we can have a longer show or a different type of show. Sure, someone listen, please give us more.
Yes,
So
which is exactly, so we can explore technique.
absolutely. But we're giving you more in the meantime, aren't we? So the garment of the week, understandably, it was beautiful. The fabric was beautiful. It worked as a concept of this swish, a posh dinner do at the cinema or whatever. It was wonderful. So I can understand why that got garment of the week. Fully deserved. But we had to then say goodbye to someone, didn't we? Where are we?
Yes.
Let's get my buttons right. We had to say goodbye to Vicky.
Vicky, yeah.
There.
It wasn't as hard because she didn't seem to mind all that much. It wasn't a surprise to her. She, in many ways, maybe it was time for her to go home.
Yeah.
She's ready to call it a day on maybe the stamina wasn't quite there at the end. But she took it well, which makes it easier because it is a heartbreak. When, I think even Sarah gets quite teary when she says,
yeah. Well, we've been with these sewers. You know what it's like. We've been with these sewers for nearly 10 weeks. And if Vicky was your favourite, because everyone's going to have their own favourites for whatever reason. It could be in the family, so therefore you want Vicky to win, and she's obviously had to keep it secret. And you're like, oh no, she's out at the semi-final. Of course, you're going to be gutted. That's why we love it, because you have your favourites, and you follow them through. So you've been on that journey with them, and especially with Vicky, we were seeing her really come out. Was it a couple of weeks ago? Absolutely just shone with some of those makes, and we were then saying, right, yeah, she's going to go all the way, get into the final, and just to miss it. But so we've got our final then, haven't we? That's it. So we've got,
and I think in this one, I think all of them are winners. I think I would say they all have every right to be there, and I would say they've all gone a long way to winning this already.
Absolutely. And as we said before, any one of them could win it, really, because people, you could have a bad week, just one bad week, and it's not judged on what you've been like for the last 8 weeks, is it? If you just you mess something up, it can all come tumbling down. So anyone could win it. Who do you want to win? Let us know in the comments. We'll be talking to you live next week, and we'll be live at 9 p.m. In fact, we've got 2 shows. If you want to join us, I'm doing it with Ting at 8 p.m. for Picked, and then we'll be live at 9 p.m. chatting away with you all. There'll be no demo for the last session because we'll all be caught up with talking about their makes and obviously who won. Because there might be many people, you don't know how close it's going to be. There might be many of you going, oh, why did he not win? Or why did she not win? It's going to be fun to talk about it, isn't it, next week?
It'll be a great fun. Yeah. I'm really excited about it. I don't want the week to zip by, but I'm looking forward to it.
I know. So join us at 9 p.m. live in YouTube. Let's chat about your comments. Will you be heartbroken? Will you be over the moon? It's going to be exciting. So there we are. Hope that was of worth to you and you took some value from it. I know the camera's a bit choppy and everything, but I know you understand that. But we enjoyed sharing it all with you. So here's to one more week, the final. And don't forget, go back to that slide, pause it if you're interested in joining the masterclass. It's the pilot, free, no fee at all. You can get involved and send that email to I Never Learned to sew all there, and Carol will get it and start looking at it. So thanks everyone. Thank you, Carol, and see you next week for the final. Ta-ra.
Bye everyone.
Bye.